respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island, and acknowledge these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. So we do have a regular committee agenda to get through, but before we get to do something special, we get to commemorate 150 years of the RCMP. With us today, we've got Superintendent Brockman, as well as Staff Sergeants Gallant and Hughes. And instead of the chair doing it, I'm going to hand it over to the mayor to take us through this.
Well, thank you, Chair Bressy. Today it gives me great pleasure as we can commemorate the 150th anniversary of the RCMP. The RCMP has a long-standing and complex history in our country and in our region. On May 23rd, 1873, Canadian Parliament passed an act that allowed for the creation of the Northwest Mounted Police. By the following summer, 300 recruits set out on the infamous March West to set up posts across the country. By the 1890s, the Peace Country saw regular patrols of the Northwest Mounted Police, and in 1909, Staff Sergeant K.F. Anderson was the first Mountie of the renamed Royal Northwest Mounted Police to arrive in Grande Prairie. The following year, Corporal S.G. Clay established a one-man detachment and built a barracks on the Clifford homestead at Flying Shot Lake. Between 1918 and 1932, the newly named Royal Canadian Mounted Police opened and closed their Grande Prairie detachment 4 times, as the Alberta Provincial Police and town constables were responsible for most of Grande Prairie's policing during this period. In 1932, the Alberta Provincial Police were disbanded, and the RCMP again established a detachment in Grande Prairie at the old post office on 100th Street downtown. On July 1st, in 1943, the RCMP took over policing responsibilities in the town as the civilian constables were disbanded. At that time, the RCMP has served Grande Prairie. Since that time, the RCMP has served Grande Prairie as its police of jurisdiction. The city is truly grateful for the dedication of the officers who have served our community throughout our history. As we commemorate 150 years of RCMP service, we want to recognize the RCMP for their efforts to modernize and use trauma-informed approaches as a step to reconcile with Indigenous and other marginalized communities. We appreciate the work the RCMP is taking in this regard. While a new chapter in Grande Prairie's history book is about to be written with the creation of the Grande Prairie Police Service, the city extends our gratitude for the commitment of the hundreds of RCMP members who have served our community for over 120 years. We look forward to continuing working with the RCMP in many ways as we serve our city together. To symbolize the positive relationship between the RCMP and the Grande Prairie Police Service, I'm excited to announce today that the City and the RCMP are developing a challenge coin that will feature both police service logos on either side of the coin. We look forward to sharing more information about this in the future. On behalf of City Council, I recognize and commemorate 150 years of the RCMP serving Canadians from coast to coast. And if you wouldn't mind joining me at the front.
Well, thank you, Mayor Clayton, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. We appreciate it. First up on our regular agenda, we've got our We've got our delegations. I see Ms. Kreiderman, and I don't know if Ms. Fisher's coming up too, but please come on up. And we know you, but everybody at home might not know you, so please introduce yourself as you come up. And I think you know the drill, but you get about 5 minutes to give us an update on your work, and then I'll give committee a chance to ask any questions they might have.
settle. Is that the right place? Do you hear me? Yeah, that's good. Okay. So good morning, and thank you all very much for giving us a few minutes to drop in and say hello to everyone and share some of our successes for the past year. I think we've all met, in case others have not. I'm Deb Kreideman. I'm the director over at the Grande Prairie Public Library, and this is Erica. She's one of our fabulous board members, and she's also the chair of our planning committee. So in 2022, we continued our journey to pre-pandemic levels of library use. After 2 years of open again, close again, open again, close again, open again, close again, we were happy to be here, be open, and be fully accessible to the community. And what a remarkable year it was. Thanks to our caring and dedicated staff, Grande Prairie Public Library had a tremendous impact on the lives of those who call Grande Prairie home. All library work is guided by our 2021 to 2025 plan of service. It is the roadmap to the programs, the services, and the resources provided to the community by the library. This plan was developed through community consultation to identify the community needs and determine which of those needs the library could best meet. Developed during the early days of the pandemic, the most often identified need was connections to other people. In 2022, we were open for a total of 2,945 hours, and our 46 staff members worked a total of 39,952 hours, which brings our total full-time staff equivalent, or full-time equivalent staffing, to about 22 people. Additionally, we were able to leverage the hard work and dedication of 99 volunteers, including our board, and the board themselves put in 276 hours of volunteer work. Thank you, board. Our collection size remained steady at about 120,000 items, and those items were loaned 469,630 times. So it's about 4 times per item. Some items were loaned 8 times, some items were loaned once. So yeah, it's a busy little place. We had 166,915 in-person visits in 2022, which adds up dramatically compared to the previous 2 years, of course. We are currently on track to have more than 200,000 people visit us this year. We've already seen visits as high as 1,200 people per day, and our average visits per day is about 575. People visit the library for assistance with many things, including accessing information. We are living in a time of information overload, and library staff are here to help navigate that information and find trustworthy sources while being aware of their own personal biases. In 2022, staff answered almost 15,000 reference questions, and a reference question goes far beyond, where's the washroom or what time does the library close? A reference question requires a deeper dive and sometimes some really creative problem solving to get to a good answer. Some reference questions take a few minutes to solve. Some take several hours over the course of several days to come up with an answer. One of those 15,000 questions this past year was, I've spent the past 30 years looking for the title of a children's book from the 1970s, or maybe it was the 1960s. It features a man walking around town with his guitar, or looking for his guitar. He asks everyone if they've seen his guitar, but nobody has. It turns out that guitar was on the man's back the entire time. I thought it was called Mr. Anderson's guitar, but that wasn't it. Within 20 minutes, our staff had an answer. It was Pete Johnson and His Guitar by Kay Ware. Information desk staff received thorough training, in order to provide members of the public with the most accurate and authoritative information possible. A number of these staff members have master's degree in library and information science or diplomas in library and information technology. Exam invigilation is also experiencing a resurgence. During the pandemic, when we couldn't meet in person, we transformed our boardroom into a testing center because exam invigilation was one of the few things we could actually do while we were closed to the public. We invigilated 329 exams in 2022 and are on track to have many, many more written in our space in 2023. One special service that we provide to exam writers is that when a person finishes their GED exams, all of their GED exams, and they've essentially graduated from high school as an adult. We present them with a graduation cap and the tassel, and we snap a photo for them. For students who haven't had that chance to walk across the stage and shake somebody's hand, it's been a really special touch that means so much to them. We also give them the tassel to take home with them. So as the world continues to experience the digital divide, even here in Canada, the library continues to bridge that divide for many. In 2022, the library's 48 public computers hosted 23,757 sessions, and our Wi-Fi was accessed 59,629 times, for a total of 83,386 opportunities for people to access the internet through the library. We also continue to loan our Wi-Fi hubs because sometimes people need to have access to the internet while they're away from the library. And in 2022, we had approximately 300 holds placed on those hubs, and $18,550 was obtained through a variety of grants, donations, and sponsorships to continue funding those hubs well into 2023. Staff spent a significant amount of time helping people with technology as well, from things as simple as signing up for email to navigating online training for work in the oil and gas sector. The library provides opportunities to serve every member of our community, from developing literacy skills in our tiniest patrons to combating social isolation by providing programs for diverse populations. We facilitate these sessions in the library by identifying and bringing experts in to share those skills and knowledge. In 2022, the library offered 1,261 program sessions, which were attended 18,974 times. Through library programs, people can get help with their taxes, they can learn to play the guitar, they can develop their green thumb, they can experience new technologies, they can help with harm reduction, they can practice their English, and they can even learn sign language. And of course, children and their caregivers can bond and laugh during story times, and those children can develop that foundation that ensures that they will be successful in school. We had some very significant staffing changes in 2022, resulting from one senior staff member moving on to a position over at NWP. Our trickle-down staff changes include a new head of children's services who has transformed our children's department into an area where literacy is approached through play. Our teen librarian, who continues to engage teens through volunteering and learning, they get about 40 volunteers per semester who run all semester with them. A new information services assistant who has elevated the Library of Things and has made the genealogy collection much more dynamic. And finally, a new children's program coordinator who is creative and innovative in ways that engage our youngest patrons. In 2023, our plans to serve the community include supporting our budding entrepreneurs by providing more robust business center, which includes access to printing, photocopying, and faxing through specialized software, powerful computers to help them get their venture off the ground, period. This also involves upgrading to a print from any device solution so that people are able to print from the public computers, their mobile devices, or from laptops, their own laptops. People also have the option of paying for printing online rather than going up and having the staff help them with that. We are exploring new ways to provide quiet spaces to people. People use the library to study, to hold small meetings, and to receive tutoring in school curriculum or in new languages, to conduct interviews in person or by Zoom, or even to have medical appointments online. So providing new quiet spaces for that as need increases has been a priority, or will be a priority, sorry. And we have recognized that our World Languages collection is quite dated. I'll give you a little story about that. The World Languages collection used to be a shared Alberta collection. Everybody put money into it, and then it was collected in one central location in Lacombe, Alberta, and then it was distributed. And so it could change out. You could bring in the collections, the languages that were appropriate for your community, and trade them out so that you always had something fresh and new. They realized that it was not a sustainable collection in that format, so they disbanded it about 10 years ago. And our collection is part of that disbanded collection, so it's quite dated. We have added some to it, but not enough to keep it really viable. So it's dated, and it's in desperate need of a complete overhaul. in order to be an effective resource for those in Grande Prairie who speak languages other than English. We are exploring ways we can achieve that and be even more welcoming to those people who've chosen Grande Prairie to be their home. Another thing that we've done, we talked about this yesterday, was I'm drawing a blank. Right, yes. Another thing that we will continue to do next year that has been seen as quite important is supporting our little free pantry. Co-op specifically has provided us with thousands of dollars repeatedly because they've identified having the little free pantry available at the library as being a way that reduces theft at the co-op. So they've seen it as a way that's supporting them, so we will absolutely continue to do that. I should have made a note, like I said. We're always grateful to you, the city, for your support in helping us enrich the lives of our treasured community. Our job is to listen to those who call Grande Prairie home and to make their lives a little bit easier. And so thank you so much for making that possible. That's it.
Thank you. I see Councillor O'Connor, then Councillor Berg, then Bosch, then Mayor Clayton.
Okay, thank you, Chair Bressie. One of the things that I had when I served on the board was that do memberships expire? And if they do expire, what's the time limit? And what should somebody do if they've been a previous member to get a new membership?
Are you coming back to see us, Mike? Memberships have a year term, but at that year, we just need to ensure that you are at the same address. After a couple of years, they become kind of dormant, and then there's another couple of years where we just go through and we clean things up because we don't want memberships kicking around. So that's how that works. So if you'd like to renew your membership, you just have to swing by and say hello. You could probably call us and we do it that way.
Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bressie. Thanks, ladies. The one thing I want to ask you a little bit about, or have you elaborate on, is the unique marketing that you've done. You've done an outstanding TikTok account. You've got Erica's Book Club on Today FM, and then you've also recently rented out some space to CBC television. So tell us, how are all of these benefiting the library?
Oh, well, let me go through and start with Erica. Erica says Grande Prairie Public Library on the radio very often. So thankfully, we get the benefit of that. So people become aware of us that way, which is really fantastic. Having the TikTok, it has opened up communication with not only Grande Prairie, but people all over the world, mostly North America, but all over the world. And we discuss issues that are impacting libraries everywhere. And it also makes us aware of how things are going in other locations. So it's not just us serving other people, but it's getting that information back as well. So that's been really wonderful for us. CBC, having CBC there, that is a room rental. It's primarily as an income stream. Don't tell them.
Well, on the flip side, though, they did launch a grand opening event in the library, which raised, again, great profile for you as well.
Yeah, we saw people at the library that day that we'd never seen before, so that was really wonderful.
All right, thanks, ladies.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Thank you for coming. My question is, within our package here, you were talking about grant funding, that grant funding form, and looking at how things are separated from city, county, everything else. There is a line here, and this is just because I don't know if this is a new thing or coming about since COVID. There is a line for fundraising and a line for sponsorship that shows 0 on each. You generally do fundraising and sponsorship?
No. So sponsorship would be something like when we were building the library, we have the Rotary Community Room, the Rotary Training Room, those sorts of things. We have other areas in the library that have been named. So that's how that has happened in the past. We have not been doing anything with that lately. We're short a person. That hasn't been a priority for us this year. Fundraising, we don't do a whole lot of as well. We have the Champions of the Grande Prairie Public Library that do fundraising for us. So they're the fundraising arm of the library. We do accept donations all the time, and we do have quite a few of those that happen, but there's no purposeful push for fundraising at the moment.
So this Champions of Grande Prairie Public Library aren't active.
No, they are active, but that money isn't ours. It's theirs. And then we apply to that to get money from them. Does that make any sense?
It says zero, so I'm just curious.
It's zero. Yeah, it's zero. They just started up last year. So we don't get an income from them. We get things from them. They purchase the things. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. I appreciate taking some time for questions today. There's a couple things that I was curious about. And first one, gift in kind. Does that factor in the revenue that you receive from CBC?
No, that's in our income. So the gift in kind is 100% cheap.
So is there any city gift in kind in there?
100% of that is
Except not the CBC?
not the CBC. No.
Okay. And then memberships are still free, to my knowledge, correct?
No, membership.
So you mentioned that it's great that people can renew it annually so you can keep up to date.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there's some staff time required for that.
Yeah, yes, there is some staff time required for that. It's moments. Yeah. Signing up a new card takes time, takes more time because there's the whole instructing what goes on in the library, where things are, that sort of thing, the rules associated with having a card. But yeah.
I remember the year that you brought it to committee that you were going to make memberships free. I wondered if your board has considered bringing back a small fee for membership. I know that you referenced that, that there's reduction in staff due to funding levels, I've heard. So I'm curious if you've had other considerations for revenue streams.
Oh, we're always thinking about other things for revenue streams. To my knowledge, the board has not been thinking about bringing back a membership fee. The thing with a membership fee is it really creates a barrier for certain people. And those are the people we really want to provide services to, right? If they can't afford the $12 a year, what have you. Yeah, that would mean children who don't have access to early literacy. That's children who won't be able to bring home a stack of books and be able to read at home. A lot of people also associate having a library card with being able to attend a program. They are not. You don't have to have a library card to attend a program, but often people think that. So by providing that card at no charge, they're able to attend those, especially the early literacy programs, and have that foundation built within the library.
Remind me, I totally appreciate that at time there are at times people that can't afford services at the city. We have many examples where we support people that can't afford services. So I'm curious, was there ever a time when the membership fee did cost something that you had programs to support those who maybe couldn't afford it?
Yeah, we've always said that if you can't afford it, we will provide it for you at no charge. However, there is that barrier of admitting to somebody that you can't afford it. So, and that's $12, and admitting that you can't afford $12 is quite a barrier to people. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And if I can, Chair Bressie, when would be an appropriate time for council? Obviously, we have a representative from our council on your committee, but sometimes I feel council doesn't really get an opportunity to align with your board in regards to strategic planning. And it was great that we had our first meeting this year with our council and board in regards to sort of high-level conversations. But if council had input on, the operational sort of side of things that would align with strategic initiatives in the city, sometimes, one member on your board may not necessarily get the support of everybody or get a chance to get across what council is thinking. So when's an appropriate time for that, in your opinion?
You're welcome to join us anytime. We can set up meetings. You can join us at a board meeting. Just have to plan it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what time of year do you do your strategic planning, I guess?
Oh, the strategic plan, which we call the plan of service, is once every 5 years. Thing. So it'll be coming up again in 2025. We'll be doing that planning system. And everybody is invited. We sent out invitations to all of council last time, county council, the MD, other stakeholders within the community. We make sure that's broadly spread out and about. That's not the right words, but yeah, we invite everybody, and we invite the public as well. Perfect. So this past time, it was all via Zoom because it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. right at the beginning. So yeah, so the world is invited. We do invite the world to do that. Yeah.
Appreciate that. That's all I had. Thanks.
Great, thank you. A question I had is, how's digital ebooks growth going? Is that still something you're seeing big growth in? Is it still the big fiscal worry it used to be with the way the publishers have it set up?
Yes, and yes. Short answer. Yes. Ebook is ebooks, audiobooks. All of our online services continue to grow a lot. I don't have the math for that one. And the cost is still ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And the way it's set up with some publishers is after 20 uses, if it was a book, you'd probably discard it because it would look like a dog's breakfast. So they also eliminate the electronic version, and we have to repurchase it. So something like Spare by Prince Harry had hundreds of holds on it. So we may have had a copy and another library had copies, but we would have had to purchase that multiple times. It would have cost us more, and it's prohibitive. But there's a whole group in Canada working on that, working with publishers. I assure you, it is in good hands and much smarter hands than mine.
Good. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bressie. And following up on Mayor Clayton's point, I was just curious, as we have a 4-year strategic plan for council. However, every year revisit that strategic plan, and are we on the right track? Do we need to change anything? And I'm just wondering, rather than waiting till 2025, that on whatever date that you choose, I think we should revisit that so that we're all aligned. So just a suggestion, can't tell you what to do, but just a suggestion to maybe that would help in planning for the future, and look at your budget at an earlier date than the future. Thank you.
Would you like me to, we do look at it ongoingly. Like, it's not a do it and then it's done. It's a ongoing review of that continually. Yeah.
I'm not seeing anybody else, so thank you to your staff, thank you to your board, thank you to all your volunteers for the important work you do for our community. Thanks for coming in, share a bit of it today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Have a great day. Next up, we've got a report and recommendation on the Southeast Grande Prairie Firebreak. But I've been told by administration that there are some matters where there's some FOIP concerns, so we've been asked to move in camera for that. So could I get a motion to go in camera? Mayor Clayton, any discussion or debate? Not seen any. I'll call to question. And that carries, so we will move in camera. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue this meeting out of camera. We do have, first up, we've got a report on the Southeast Grande Prairie Firebreak, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Lemieux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as everybody's aware, the GPREP has been busy working on a Dunes West wildfire that has now been called under control, and we're very pleased with the weather change and the rain that we're getting now. Part of the strategy to fight a wildfire is the building of fire breaks, and although the city wasn't threatened with this particular fire because of prevailing wind conditions that were in our favor, a number of fire breaks were constructed on the southwest of the city. Evaluations of the risk on the southeast corner also were a concern to the team, and there were a number of consultation with the province, and a decision was made to recommend that a fire break needed to be constructed on the southeast side to protect a number of infrastructure and some property, and certainly the south side of the city. So the recommendation in front of you here is that council approve the construction of that fire break. It's a partnership between the County of Grande Prairie, the City of Grande Prairie, and the Province of Alberta, and the City Council share would be $1,250,000, and we're recommending that it be funded from the Financial Stabilization Reserve, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Are there any questions for administration? Okay. I'll turn it over to Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. I would move that committee recommend council approve the construction of a fire break in partnership with the County of Grande Prairie and the Province of Alberta for 1.250, I'll say that again, $1,250,000 funded from the Financial Stabilization Reserve. Just speaking briefly to this motion, significant work was put in between the county and the province in regards to conversations and the future stability of our region as we faced recently a significant fire. We know and technical experts show us that fire breaks are a great way to safeguard communities. We saw the damage that can be done from fires, how quickly they move. Many parts of the province are still under threat. This initiative significantly supported by the province and is something that we should really be thankful for. The province is the largest financial contributor to this initiative, and the city and the county were happy to be part of this conversation for future mitigating future risks to not only residential fuel source with trees, our water treatment plant, houses, many areas through this safeguard are protected, and I think the work we will see will be done relatively quickly, and you know, I thank our county partners in the province for supporting the region in this initiative. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll recognize Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bressie. I'm just going to speak in favor of this. From an economic standpoint, we have, again, $1.25 million that we're going to send to council. The Financial Stabilization Reserve is there for exactly events like this. But as well, the economic impacts. Again, with today's home prices, it doesn't take too many homes to add up to 1.25 million. The economic impact, should we have to evacuate any part of our city, will be huge, and I'm sure some numbers will come out from a variety of cities that have had to evacuate, be it Valley View, Edson, Fox Creek. The economic impacts to those communities is huge. So to me, this is a relatively small investment to mitigate and protect our citizens.
Great. Thank you. Not seeing anybody else, so I will call this a question. That motion carries, which means this will be coming to council on Monday. Next up, we've got our service area update. Chief Lemieux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll start with some major projects update. So on a coordinated care campus, phase 1 and 2 of the construction is scheduled to be completed in June with occupancy in July. This is the phase that includes the 63 supportive housing units. And then phase 3 construction is to be completed in September, and the phase 3 is the 43 independent living units and our municipal offices. And the second project is Fletcher House, which will contain 18 supportive housing units and 22 independent living units. That's still scheduled for construction to be completed in August with occupancy in September. From Community Social Development, they've been working in collaboration with the Food Access and Security Task Force. So a survey from that task force will be released to the public in June, and our marketing department has been working with them on that. So the data collected there will be utilized to inform an action plan to continue to address food insecurity issues in the area. And Seniors Week is running from June 5th to the 10th. And the Eastlink Center will partner with Crosslink County Sportsplex to offer free registration classes for seniors, and multiple events will be held in Grande Prairie and surrounding communities throughout the week, and those have been placed in the council calendar. The main kickoff organized by the Seniors Outreach is on Monday, June the 5th, and I believe that is in your calendar. Will be an information fair and a barbecue. On housing and homelessness initiatives, I want to state that an encampment response task force for the Muskosipi Park and Bear Creek area has met several times over the last week. The task force is a coordinated effort between a number of city departments and 8 local agencies, and the response is to ensure public safety related to the risk of fire hazards within that corridor. And to mitigate encampments, a temporary mat program will operate out of the Street Outreach Center to alleviate the pressures of the emergency shelter during this extreme weather fire season. Enforcement Services, I'd like to report that Enforcement Services gave tremendous support to the wildfire efforts by sending officers to assist the RCMP with perimeter checkpoints when we needed 24-hour coverage for so many days. And Enforcement Services is also working on this joint task force to mitigate the chances of a wildfire in and around the Bear Creek corridor. The fire department, those crews have also been very busy, as you can attest. They have supported the effort in the Dunes West fire, and also responding to calls within the city. And also I want to point out that our dispatch center was extremely busy and still experiencing a very high demand for service, as we cover, I think, over 40% of the land mass in Alberta, and there have been a lot of fires in the north, so the dispatch center has been taxed to its max, and are have brought in additional resources and are doing a good job for us. The RCMP policing report, members have been working to secure the area of the Dunes wildfire in the county of Grande Prairie, and were working with us at the Incident Command Post for the 2-week period. And however, that has not detracted from regular policing operations in the city of Grande Prairie by municipal RCMP officers. So the service delivery in the city has largely remained unchanged during that 2-week period, which is really good news. And also the Grande Prairie RCMP is assisting with the response to some of the fires that we've experienced in Muskosipi Park and Bear Creek. So they're also part of that task force that I spoke to earlier. So is mobile outreach. So mobile outreach plays a very important role in identifying these encampments and working with that task force. Also, good news that mobile outreach The director has been contacted by the Kelowna RCMP and the Kelowna Safety Action Plan team. They've requested a meeting with Mobile Outreach because they're doing some preliminary research on alternate response model for people in crisis in their community, that is the city of Kelowna. So our director of Mobile Outreach will be meeting with this team on May the 24th to share information on what Grande Prairie is doing. So our Mobile Outreach program is seen as a leading edge, and we continue getting these requests for information, which is really good news. On sports development, wellness, and culture, Grande Prairie was awarded the bid for the 2024 National Aboriginal Hockey Championship, where 500 participants from across Canada will play a week-long tournament, and the community will be invited to participate in a number of cultural activities. So we're really excited about that. And lastly, on the emergency management side and GPREP, as you know, an Instant Command Post, Emergency Coordination Center, and Reception Center were open on May the 5th to deal with the Dunes West fire. The Dunes West fire was declared under control on May the 17th, and the Instant Command Post was demobilized on May the 18th. The Emergency Coordination Center and Reception Center remained active throughout the weekend. I'll try and get an update in terms of where we're at today. City and county employees, along with support from Wembley, Sexsmith, and Beaver Lodge, were instrumental in fighting this wildfire. And I also have to thank our friends that came from as far as City of Calgary, Chestermere, and we had some from the north, the MD of Smoky River, Northern Sunrise, the military were on board. So it was a real team effort, and so I'd like to thank all of them for their support. And Mr. Chair, that's my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you for the report. Thank you again to all the staff that have been dealing with these fires. And it's always great to hear about our mobile outreach being the leading edge, and exciting we're going to get 140 people off the streets this summer. That's really exciting to me. Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Councillor Bressie. Mr. Lemieux, I know that we had a spate of a number of fires within the city over a really short period of time, a couple of days. I understand that those, a number of those were arson related. Do we have any, are we in any position to be taking people to court for that, or is it going to remain an unknown?
I can't share a lot of details, but we have made some progress on that file, and certainly as it evolves, I will keep council informed.
I'm not seeing anybody else, so thank you for the report, and I'll hand it over to you again, Mr. Lemieux, to introduce our next report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So on our outstanding items list, we had a report that council requested on detox and treatment wait times. So I'm going to ask our Director of CSD, Angela Sutherland, to join us for that report.
Right. Good morning. As Chief Lemieux has stated, this report is a result of direction from this committee out of a January 17th report where administration had provided a cross-municipal comparison on mental health, addiction, and health supports across municipalities. So as you can see in the report, we did a scan, and for comparison purposes, we used locations in Southern Alberta, Central Alberta, Calgary, and Edmonton. So just a brief overview. Overall, the wait times to enter detox is usually same day, depending on criteria. However, the residential treatment programs can span between a few weeks to a few months. And so that is where I think some of the challenges are when people enter detox and the transition to getting into a potential treatment program. As we know that ensuring residents are able to enter a residential treatment program is vital to a person's recovery journey. Unfortunately, when an adult can typically enter detox quite quickly without a wait, it is that time that they have to wait to get into a proper residential treatment program that works for them that is the continuing challenge. A broad spectrum of holistic approaches is required, as we know that recovery is individual based on the person. Administration recommends ongoing advocacy for resources which support a timely and accurate transition and seamless from detox to treatment for individuals who are ready to take the recovery journey. And with that, I'll be open to any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Berg, then Bosch.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bressie. more of a comment. Thank you for putting this out there, because it was a question that I had in my mind, and to see it in black and white is important. But it also shows us where these gaps are. And as you just mentioned, people get into detox, but it could be up to 3 to 6 months before they can actually get into treatment. So again, what Mr. Lemieux had addressed with the new buildings coming on and the new programs coming on, the city continues to work to help these people and fill some of those gaps with a safe place. So again, thank you for the report. I appreciate it. And I love where we're headed to help these people out. Thanks.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Hi, Angela. Thanks for coming. I just have a question with one of the stats here, and it's just because I don't understand it. It says occupancy rate is currently 74%, indicating beds are currently available with Northern Addiction Center in Grande Prairie, yet we have a wait. I don't understand. If there's space, how do we have a wait?
Through the chair, I think that it fluctuates. So in terms of the operational requirements of the Northern Addiction Center, I'm not too familiar with the ins and outs of that. But what I do hear from the Director of Addictions and Mental Health, that they are adapting how clients access the service. So when they say 74% suggests that any given, like right now, currently, there's probably a few spaces available, but it all depends on the client, the needs, and how they assess and if they're ready. So in talking with Director McLean on this, they said clients can enter the program through detox service or through a scheduled admission time for direct access to the residential treatment program. So on average, they wait approximately 25 days. And some of this time is related to client requested delays, or client may not be available to take the first available scheduled admission date, as well as time needed to collect assessment information. So all of that, I think, factors into how they handle their operations.
Okay. And then my follow-up to that is that 26%, what does that equate to? Like 4 beds? What is the number?
So at the Northern Addiction Center, through the chair, there's 40 spaces.
40 in total, so this is 26% of the 40. Okay, thank you.
Not seen anybody else. Oh, sorry, Mayor Clayton.
Bressie, thanks for your report. I think it's valuable information to support the province's announcement that the 75 treatment bed facility is required in our region. I do, I at first glance think that these statistics are good numbers. I don't think it completely shows a true fair representation of how significant the needs are in our community. When to Councillor Bosch's comment, when you say that there's room for 26% more, that's not necessarily true. And so, the logistics of accepting patients transition from detox to treatment. This is a severe need in our community. The 75-bed treatment facility that was announced by the province will do a big part in helping our region. And so I think this just sort of, some of it supports that. But to say that there's any wait once you're detoxed to go to treatment is unfortunate. So like you said, in regards to up to 4 months sometimes, it's just unacceptable. So I thank you for your report, and I look forward to success in that program in the near future. Thanks.
Would somebody be willing to make a motion to receive? Councillor Berg.
Just let me go back one page here. I would like to move the committee receive this report for information.
Any questions or debate? I'll call that question. That carries. Thank you, Mr. Sutherland. And Chief Lemieux, I'll turn it over to you again to introduce the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next report is on Urban Hen Complaints, and this is item 1248 on our outstanding items list. The report was written by Mr. Sean Hebert. Mr. Hebert is off today, so our Director of Enforcement Services, Mike Lefebvre, will present that report.
Good morning. This report was a result of a delegate who attended and requested an amendment to the existing urban hen guidelines, increasing the maximum number of hens authorized per property from 4 to 6. Since 2018, the program has expanded from 1 approved urban hen site to 16 active sites presently. As of this report, there are an additional 4 new urban hen sites currently under review. The process to obtain a livestock exemption permit includes a neighborhood impact assessment. The neighborhood impact assessment involves notification of all property owners within a 25-meter radius of the proposed application site. Residents within the impacted area are provided opportunity to voice their support or opposition to the application via the livestock exemption response form. The responses are reviewed along other variables to determine suitability of the site. Opposition to applications are carefully reviewed, and an exemption will not be issued should it impact or impede another owner's enjoyment and use of property. An analysis of all available information regarding livestock exemption applications are conducted to minimize potential strife between neighbors. Once a thorough analysis is complete, an informed decision for approval is made. Since 2018, a total of 33 applications for urban hens have been received. Of these applications, 16 remain active, 8 have been withdrawn by the applicants due to various changes of circumstances, and 5 have been denied due to the negative outcomes, a strong opposition discovered during the neighborhood impact assessment. The low number of complaints involving unauthorized hens and roosters were resolved through the removal of illegal livestock from the city. In most cases, enforcement services worked with individuals to initiate a livestock exemption application to legally maintain livestock at their residence. Roosters remain to be strictly prohibited in the city. There are no records of concern or complaint related to an approved urban hen location. The increased limit from 4 to 6 will, however, increase the footprint from 5.2 square meters to 7.8. Property owner consultation and the neighborhood impact assessment is the best means to determine suitability of a proposed location for maintaining livestock within the city. To date, like I mentioned before, there have been no complaints received related to approved permits. Therefore, administration recommends increasing the number of hens from 4 to 6 with additional lot size requirements as set out within the urban hen guidelines. That was my report. I'm open for questions.
Excellent. Thank you. I know Councillor O'Connor wants to do the business, but if you've got a question, Councillor Broger, I'll turn it over to you first.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Chair Bressie. I don't expect you necessarily to have the stats available, but anecdotally, are the complaints with hens out of scope with, say, complaints around dogs and cats?
Yes, absolutely. Very minimal. If you look at the table attached in the report, we've had very minimal complaints.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Clayton, then Councillor Blackmore.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. It's great to hear that you currently have had relatively no complaints. I'm curious, was there any consultation done to the adjacent neighbors about the increase? I mean, four hens is probably a dull roar. If you add, 2 more, what does that look like? So have you had conversations with the adjacent neighbors?
No, there hasn't been any conversations or engagement with the public regarding the increase.
Okay, and so the other, if I may, Chair Bressie, would there be the other missing piece besides the increase of noise? If this is supported, will there be direct communication with the permit holders in regards to the space size increase? This gets into the media. People hear, oh yeah, now I can have 6. If they don't get direct communication, they're not going to understand that they have a space requirement increase.
Yes, through the chair, absolutely. It is actually part of the applications that they have to go through the urban hen guidelines and procedures, and the footprint of exactly what is required is involved, is part of that procedure.
Sure, if they decide to permit. If they just hear in the news, now they can go to 6. So my question is, are we going to directly be mailing, emailing, contacted the existing permit holders to let them know if they choose to go to 6 that there are expectations?
Yes, we can actually absolutely do that.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Blackmore, then Councillor Thiessen.
I know that today we're talking specifically about hens, but this is the livestock exemption permit. So I'm wondering, are there other forms of livestock that we license in the city?
You know what? I would have to go through it directly. Under the urban hen, this is the only ones that we do permit. I don't have that.
Okay. So the answer is you don't know it.
I don't know.
Okay.
Didn't get that.
I think that maybe Councillor Thiessen knows because he's twitching.
Well, fortunately, Councillor Thiessen is next in the queue.
Thank you very much, Chair Bressy. Yeah, I believe that it says no cloved hoofed animals, so that would exclude pigs, goats, cows, sheep, that kind of stuff. As far as the other stuff, I don't know if it's livestock, but bees, people are allowed to do backyard beekeeping as well, but that would be along the lines. I do have a question, but first a comment. I really appreciated the social impact portion of the report because it actually acknowledges a few things that are important as far as why we created this policy to begin with. And I think I'm just going to quote, it has favorable outcomes bringing neighbors together in unexpected ways. By making neighbors engage with each other as open opportunities for neighbors to share their appreciation for birds, education on husbandry, and information on food independence, all very worthwhile things. I guess my question now, besides the comment, is in line with what Mayor Clayton said. So let's say a homeowner wanted to go from 4 to 6 chickens. Obviously, they would have to tell us, the bylaw, would they have to go through the same engagement process with their neighbors to say, hey, I'm going to add 2 more birds. Do you object to this?
Yes, we will do the neighborhood impact assessment.
So they would still have to undergo the same steps to add 2 more birds as they would to start 4 birds.
Absolutely. And that would include an inspection to make sure that they have the proper footprint.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Lefebvre.
I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'll turn it over to Councillor O'Connor for business.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. I'd like to move committee recommend council receive the maximum number of hens authorized by livestock exemption permit from 4 to 6. And in speaking to this, in the report, most of the complaints that have been received since 2018 were regards to illegal possession of livestock in the community, and people phoned in and said, hey, they've got a rooster, or they got too many hens, they don't have a permit, and that's the only thing, and they were all corrected. And speaking to what Councillor Thiessen has said, the number of people, the unexpected result of having hens in the neighborhood brought neighbors together, and it formed new bonds. So I think when we talk about the quality of life, I think this is a very forward thinking, and I think it's benefit. So I would appreciate if you support this motion.
Great, thank you. I know that we live very close to Urban Hens, and we've got very good friends of neighbors. It all started with them teaching the kids about their hens, and our kids being careless about their chickens. So I can say that firsthand. My only real complaint is every time that permit application comes to my house, I think I'm getting a ticket of some sort. It scares me for a second. But that's been my only complaint, personally impacted by them. Motion's definitely in order. I'm not seeing any other discussion or debate, so I will call that to question. Councillor Bressy in favor? And that motion carries. Great. Thank you for the report. We appreciate it. And I'll turn it over to Chief Lemieux to introduce our last report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our last report is the 2023 grant funding report, and I'm going to ask the report writer, Katie Bieberdorf, to present the report. Thank you.
Good morning. So large-scale tourism funding is provided to nonprofits to support events that grow tourism in the city and promote a diverse culture, celebration of our heritage, and promotion of sport. 3 grants were previously approved, totaling $175,000, with the budget being $200,000, leaving $25,000 remaining for a second intake. Some applications are not recommended for various reasons as outlined in the report, and the Special Olympics Alberta Summer Games will have a business case submitted as part of the 2024 capital budget. So funding is recommended for the Grande Prairie Traditional Powwow, with $25,000 coming from large-scale tourism and additional funding as outlined in Table 1 in the report.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Council? I got questions, so I'll come to you for business at the end. I'll go Mayor Clayton, Councillor Bosch, Councillor Blackmore.
Thanks for that, Chair Bressy. Ms. Bieberdorf, was there any consideration looking at a funding source from the Arctic Winter Games Fund Legacy, as this is a cultural event as well as a sporting event?
Through the chair, we currently don't have guidelines within that fund for this particular event, but it's something we could explore in the future. Right now, it's just bidding and then the operational funding that we were giving to speed
Perfect.
skating.
Thanks.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. I guess my question is, if there is this potential intent from Table 1 to fund through other than large-scale tourism in all the other lines of funding, I'm curious why we wouldn't give the $25,000 to, let's say, the Stampede. According to your criteria that you had just spoken of, 2 minutes ago, they fit absolutely every part of that criteria, and in fact are the largest, probably the largest peace region event here. So I'm curious, why would we not just share the love here a little bit?
Yeah, through the chair, the Stampede was not recommended just based on their current financial position.
Okay.
Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. Ms. Bieberdorf, I don't see in this report that you'd actually received an application from the Grand Powwow. Had you received an application from them?
Through the chair, no, it had come down through committee when the group did their delegation a few weeks ago.
I'm a little dismayed by that, because we do ask organizations to apply, and that is part of the criteria of giving out the money. We have a number of organizations who filled that request and did apply. By handing this out, I feel that there is some indication that there's a way around the application process, and I'm not pleased with that at all. I'm not asking you to respond to that.
Yeah.
Didn't have a response.
A question for me is, if the performance group funding, is that a fund? Well, I guess performance group funding and large scale tourism funding. Am I recalling correctly that usually if you get one, you can't get the other?
So that was for festival funding. Festival funding and large scale tourism, you couldn't get both.
Okay, so
Typically, we don't give from two separate streams of funding, but this stream, the deadline has passed, and we still had $5,000 left for the year, so we felt it was appropriate to utilize it.
Great, thank you. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. I have a question in regards to this $75,000 that they did ask for publicly, to council. Are they getting other funding from any other source that we know of?
Through the chair, yes, they did have, I believe, $48,000 in fundraising and sponsorship.
Mayor Clayton.
Sorry, just Chair Bressy, I just want to remind people that this motion, if approved, is to send it to council for consideration. So we're looking for committee members to make that decision. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaking of which, are there any committee members who have a motion they're willing to make? Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bressy. So I would like to move that committee recommend council approve allocation of funding for the Grande Prairie Traditional Powwow as presented in Table 1. And again, this is to move it to council. I too would prefer if they had the proper paperwork in place so that we could follow along. I also really am looking forward to this event. I've been to a number of powwows through my life, and there is a lot of culture that comes with it, a lot of celebration, a lot of color, and just a feel-good thing that I think would absolutely help our city as just another quality of life piece, not only for the pride of our Indigenous people throughout the city, but also as an education piece and just something for a great family weekend. So, yeah, I'd like to have committee approve this so that we can discuss it further at City Council.
Thank you. I think my comment would be I definitely think something should get to council for discussion, but also once we move it to council, it's our recommendation, not administration's recommendation anymore. So we definitely don't have to forward it as said. I know for me, I'm having trouble. I definitely want to give a funding of some sort. I'm struggling with the amount, and I'm struggling with the funding stream of large-scale tourism events, just because we've got events that do make a much earlier proactive ask, and we plan appropriately. And I don't like getting outside of process significantly, and I want to give some financial support so it can get off the ground. I'm open to this level of financial support in future years, but I don't know if I can support this recommendation as it is right now. Mayor Clayton?
I have a question. Ms. Bieberdorf, or might be Mr. Smith. Can you remind me how much money is left in the Arctic Winter Games Legacy Fund?
Through the chair, it's about $380,000.
Okay.
Not seeing any other conversation or debate, so I will call this to question. Councillor Bressie opposed. Great. Thank you for the report. I guess the one other comment I'd make is I think we as a committee should be talking about how do we want to treat the Stampede, the Bear Creek Folk Festival, these legacy events that maybe don't fit within large-scale tourism funding, but still make asks every year. I think there's a conversation we should be having about those two events in the future. I'm not seeing anybody else in the queue, so I'll turn it over to Director Lemieux for the outstanding items list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on the list, I would recommend that we remove item 1248, which is the Urban Hen Complaints. Item 1260, which is Special Olympics funding needs. That was outlined in this report that a business case will be coming forward as part of the 2024 budget. And remove item 1247, detox and treatment wait times. Those three items I believe were dealt with today.
So, Councillor O'Connor.
Business arising, if there are no further questions?
I think you're good.
Okay. I'd like to move committee receive the May 23rd, 2023 outstanding items list as amended for information.
And I'll call that to question. And that motion carries. And with that, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.